welcome along to the Make It Count podcast. My name is David.
My name is Matt.
And we are the Taylor Bros, and Matt is making this moment count.
I am. We're coming in with a smooth intro this week.
Yeah.
We're not coming at you, we're coming in with
I
a
like
smooth
that.
intro.
It was good, nice.
We're taking off.
So, I don't know where you got this, I don't know who this was, but they basically said, the questions we ask ourselves will largely determine the answers we get.
Yes.
Why am I not successful? Or how can I succeed? Those are the sort of two questions that she posed.
Julie something or other.
Why am I not successful? Or how can I succeed? So what did she say about why am I not successful?
If you ask that question, you're setting yourself to get answers that berate yourself, push yourself down. Whereas if you ask, how can I succeed in this situation? You're going to set up yourself for getting answers that push you and motivate you forwards.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone explicitly would say, why am I not successful? That probably comes more from I see someone else succeeding.
Yes.
Why am I not having that? Rather than just sitting there going, oh, I failed with this project,
Although I suppose you do sometimes, I imagine you do get those moments. You get there sitting up late with a glass of wine, taking review of your life, but not in a positive way.
Well, yes, there's a bit of a self-pity moment, shall we say.
Yeah, I think we have all been in those sort of moments where we do a bit of a pity party.
Yeah, and so I suppose in a way, and she's saying this, these are very similar questions. They're about success, they're about what they look like. One points us in an inward self-berating, like you said, way, and one pulls us forward and says, hey, there are opportunities, how can I make the most of them?
Absolutely. And I wonder if, as you said, for the most part, we're probably not actively going in my journal, why am I not successful, whatever. But I do think on the theme of sort of maybe ruminating thoughts, these things probably are under the surface, playing out, but we're never really, if we haven't brought our full attention to it to recognise, oh, that is the question that's driving a lot of these negative patterns of thinking that sits under the surface.
Definitely. And so probably for many people, that question is the go-to, whereas actually there's a more positive way of looking at it. How can I succeed?
Yes.
But ultimately, it's not saying you should never ask, why am I not successful?
Yeah.
Because
that can be a really helpful question.
Really helpful. Hey, you've been learning how to play the piano for 7 years and you still can't play hot cross buns. Maybe
or chopsticks.
Like maybe there's a question there. Why am I not successful? Oh, it's
Yes.
because you've never practiced. Oh, actually, it's for whatever reason. It's going to help you. Maybe this isn't the most effective use of my time.
Sure.
So there are times to ask that question,
Yes.
and I suppose again, a question on its own, there's an emotion that goes with that. And like you said, we've immediately read into why am I not successful as a defeatist, self-berating, self-pity. But there is a way of like, hey, I'm curious. Why is this not working? You know, when you're making a product, if it's not working, you do actually need to ask that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, so this kind of goes back to coaching and when you were getting started with it and Dan and Susie Potter were teaching, I did a session with them and they talked about types of questions and, how questions and what questions are really powerful, but why questions are dangerous. Not bad, but dangerous because they can easily get us into that. I think most of us experience a why question as a condemnation because often, how do we first experience those? It was, you've been caught doing something wrong. It's like, why did you do that? Or why did you think to do that? And it's like, because the question that is being asked by that adult or that supervisor in that situation isn't really I want to get to know your motives and try and understand you. It's you should have known better and why, basically why were you such a fool to think that or whatever. And so actually why can carry a massive emotional baggage. Yeah,
because like you said, in that situation, nobody's really, most people listening to this are going to be adults. Maybe dealing
if
with
you
children.
are a child,
hello.
Excellent job for making it count.
Be careful of that question. But because in that situation, we've all had that. Why did you do this? Like you said, they're not interested in your motivations. They're not actually interested in what you were thinking about.
Yeah.
It may be drawing attention to the fact that you didn't think about it. Or actually, and they're not curious about that. There's an anger there, and they're communicating out of anger. But it is actually an interesting question because we often do want to know the motives of the underlying things. We have to be able to do that. So how can you basically, the coaching thing is, how do you ask a why question without using the word why?
Exactly, because effectively you're then removing the emotional baggage, which is just hard to undo for many of us without lots of work. But yeah, why is a question that has driven incredible exploits through all history. Like so much of scientific endeavour, it sort of starts with a, why does that happen? Or why is this the way it is?
Yeah, why did I respond in this way?
And then you break it down into what happens here or how does this work? And I think exactly that. I don't think why questions are bad, but I think probably unguided or untrained thinking, we're more likely to get what she said, Julie Gurner says, you're setting yourself up to receive answers that berate ourselves because that's how our untrained mind goes towards.
And so I think to tie it with last week's episode, we talked about the emotions and the anger a little bit.
Yep.
Actually, these questions, they come with an emotion. Is it curiosity? Is it anger? Is it self-berating? I also thought, because, the initial thing is the questions we ask ourselves will largely determine the answers we get.
Yeah.
And sometimes the questions we ask ourselves will largely determine the life we get. And I was thinking about this. I was talking with my wife. We were talking about priorities and our life's priorities. And I've got the momentum journal here. And at the beginning of that, you set down what are 3 big priorities you want
for the next 3 months.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't do that, if you just say, hey, here's my daily priorities, you're probably going to end up doing the urgent things.
Yes.
But if you sit down in a moment of reflection and maybe hope for the next quarter, you're going to go, these are the things I most want.
Yeah.
And then the planner helps you go, I want to choose this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And that's a question. What do I most want? Now, if you say, what do I most want today? That's going to look different than what do I most want this week or this quarter or even this year.
Yeah.
And so that one of the things many of us live our lives is, what do I most want today? Oh, I want this.
Or in the moment even, let alone the whole day.
Yeah, exactly. In that moment, and we're just flipping from emotion to emotion. Whereas actually sometimes this can help us get a slightly longer lens to go, what do we most want? That's a question that is worth asking. Not just how can I be successful, but what do I most want?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, well, what did Einstein say? He said, to slightly flip this on its head, he talked about the mindset or the mentality that got us the question that we want to answer. We actually need to be in a different mentality to be able to answer that question. And obviously he's thinking largely about maybe some of the deeper scientific and philosophical questions that take the greatest minds to ponder. So like the ability to frame a question of why is this like it is, we actually need to think about something different to even get to an answer for that. But yeah, like so often, for example, in a business endeavor, I think companies get off in the wrong place because they're starting with the wrong question. And so you've set the field of play before you've even started your exploration because you've gone, this is the question we're trying to answer. It's like, you're answering the wrong question. You're effectively climbing the wrong ladder.
Yeah, like you said, that question sets the field of play. It can, so there's definitely questions for businesses, the emphasis on a quarter versus 10 years, for example.
Yeah.
But also on a personal level, that question can set the emotional, the mental, and even the practical life that we live.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, really be careful about what questions you ask yourself.
Yeah.
And how much you give time to those sorts of questions.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because to bring this back to, is why a bad question? No, why isn't a bad question? Obviously, Simon Sinek, he says, start with why. The great companies or the great endeavors actually know their reason for being. They know their why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And then how are we going to get there? And then actually, what are we actually doing? So that's I think so many companies start with like effectively, what do we need to do now? And like that then gets you exactly on the equivalent of just the day planner. So why can be really powerful. And then of course you're talking about your momentum planner, or we talked about kind of quadrant 1 thinking. Go back to Stephen Covey. He talks about what do you want effectively the end of your life to be? You know, what do you want the result of your life to be? What do you want people to look back on your legacy or your life and go, yeah, this is what they achieved? And that can be your driving why. And then you can maybe start to ask some of those questions of, well, what's stopping me from achieving those things? Or what's stopping me from living into that? Which is basically another way of saying, why am I not getting that now? But it's instead of just this broad, why am I not successful? Or why do I not have the life I want? Or why do I not have the dream job, the house, the wife, the kids, whatever? It's this is the vision I want to do. This is the why I want to live into. Okay, what's stopping me from doing that? Oh, well, maybe I've been a bit too narrow focused on today and I've forgot the long term.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, that's it from the Make It Count podcast this week, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Ask yourself a good question.
Yeah.
Not a bad one.
Yeah.
A great one.
Why does your life not measure up to everything you want it to?
It's a terrible question. Whatever question you ask, though, remember the emotion that goes with it is significant.
Yes.
So try and do it with curiosity.
Curiosity and kindness gets you further with these things than that self-berating voice.
Yeah.